بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وأفضل الصلاة وأكمل التسليم على سيدنا مولانا وحبيبنا وقرة أعيننا محمد صلى الله تعالى عليه وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين، ورضي الله عن أصحابه أجمعين وعنا معهم برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. أما بعد، فالسلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Cold night, huh? الله الله. يقول الله سبحانه وتعالى: بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا بني اركب معنا. This talks about Nuh alayhi salam. Well, all of you know Nuh, Shaykh al-Anbiya, the Shaykh of the Anbiya as far as living long life and all these things. When Nuh alayhi salam, they asked him, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked him to build the ship, as you all know. So he built the ship, because that was the order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. People are, you're building the ship here, there's no water. People build the ship on their ports, next to the oceans. So they come, and you all know it is in the riwayat and the tafsir, they come and mock Nuh alayhi salam. They belittle him, they slander him, they insult him. You're building a ship here. Like Nuh alayhi salam was following the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It doesn't matter if the whole world is going to mock Nuh or slander Nuh or call Nuh names, but Nuh alayhi salam was not going to let the order of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu without him executing it to the last of his abilities. But it was not only the ship of Nuh building, the building of the ship or the construction of the ship itself was the point, but also that the ship was going to be a ship of salvation from the floods. He told them, وَقُلْنَا يَا سَمَاء. Allah tells us about ordering heavens to open up, وَيَا أَرْض, and O earth. So now you have water coming from earth and heavens pouring rain and water. You would think now, after all these years and people making fun of him, now that there is, if it rains for a few days, you'll actually see continuously, you'll see some kind of mini flooding going on. Imagine if it now rains for a very long time. And not only rains, but also earth's water also comes out and explodes. Well, little by little, that ship of Nuh alayhi salam, that he put in it from every zawjain, he put from every thing something, and that ship that constituted salvation, it started sailing on that water. And some people still didn't like that. They didn't like Nuh's idea. They didn't like Nuh's ideology. They didn't like Nuh's direction. So among them was his son. قَالَ سَآوِي إِلَى جَبَلٍ يَعْصِمُنِي. And the Quran says on his behalf. He says, "Oh father, قال يا بني اركب معنا." it's very difficult for the father to see his son like this. He tells him, "Oh son, come ride. Come, ride with us. Come aboard. اركب معنا يعني come aboard." This was sort of the motto of Nuh alayhi salam, because he wanted to save people. Like his son's idea was, "Sawi ila jabal." You go on, I will find myself a mountain where I can stay on that mountain, and that should save me from the floods. وَحَالَ بَيْنَهُمَا الْمَوْجُ. But Al-Quran says, suddenly the waves that have been created and the sea that has been now put and the water, the waves, the big waves separated both of them, the father and the son. فَكَانَ مِنَ الْمُغْرَقِينَ. And that big mountain that he thought heavy and famous and known to people and saving, and that mountain that he thought was a mountain that he could hide behind and be protected by because of whatever it is that he thought the mountain would do. But all of a sudden Allah tells us, وَحَالَ بَيْنَهُمَا الْمَوْجُ. But really the waves separated Nuh and his son, and therefore his son was among those who were drowned. So the waves got that son and got the mountain that that man was actually standing on. Because no mountain then can overcome the order of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Obviously the Anbiya were all trying to give us ships of salvation as well, because the ship of Nuh alayhi salam was not merely a ship so you can be saved from drowning. Because if you are any ship that saves you from drowning, that's a ship that saves your dunya. But the ship of Nuh was a ship that saved people in the dunya and the akhirah. Yani if you make a mistake and you lose your dunya, that's one thing. But if you lose your dunya and your akhirah, there's nothing left. So the ship of Nuh alayhi salam was a ship that was not for physical salvation, but also for spiritual and religious salvation, and therefore those who boarded the ship were among those who attained salvation. قَالَ يَا بُنَيَّ ارْكَبْ مَعَنَا. Come aboard. Come aboard. Nuh alayhi salam wanted people to come aboard. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent his anbiya as also ships of salvation in a sense. ونبينا صلى الله عليه وآله يعني الحبيب الأعظم والرسول الأفخم والنبي الأكرم صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم came to us as a nur guiding us in the darkness of the dunya. You see, you need, in the darknesses you need light, and then you need guides. When Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam came to give us the light, so he illuminated the darkness for us, but he did not leave us without a ship to board. He led us and he left us behind him a ship. That ship is a ship that we ought to board. That ship was, which al-hadith that is in Sahih al-Imam Muslim, or that is in al-Tirmidhi with an authentic isnad, with Tabarani, with Hakim, and many others, where the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam said, I left you, taraktu fikum ما إن تمسكتم به لن تضلوا بعدي أبدا. هذا حديث صحيح. I left amongst you two things. If you hold on to them, you will not be misguided. I'm sorry, you will never be misguided. Lan, you will never be misguided. ولفظ Muslim ثقلين. I left you two heavy weights. If you hold on to them, you will never be misguided. Kitab Allahi wa itrati. The book of Allah and itrati. Lafz Tirmidhi and lafz Muslim. The book of Allah. Then he said, أذكركم الله بأهل بيتي. أذكركم الله بأهل بيتي. أذكركم الله بأهل بيتي. 3 times. Sanad point of view, there is no discussion on the hadith. It's done. Yani according to us, Ahl Sunnah, from our rules of Isnad and Jarh and Ta'deel. Obviously, Imam Muslim narrated it, so that also. He left us 2 things. If we hold on to them, we will never be misguided. Those were his words. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. If you hold on to them, you will never be misguided. There's an addition also, that also is authentic. وَلَنْ يَتَفَرَّقَا or وَلَنْ يَفْتَرِقَا, both. حَتَّى يَرِدَ عَلَيَّ الْحَوْض. And those 2 weights, يعني the Quran and the itra, shall not be or shall be inseparable, shall not be separated in the dunya until they come to me both at the basin. Al-Hawd. And there's an addition, فَانظُرُوا كَيْفَ تَخْلِفُونِ فِيهِمَا. See how you're going to treat them after me. Telling us. Before we go into what he left us as ship of salvation, let's talk about the first weight. Because it seems some people hold on to the first weight and abandon the second, and some people hold on to the second and abandon the first. Yani some people hold to the Quran, which mandates the Sunnah. When the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi tells us, I left you 2 things. The first is the book of Allah. Some people with some sensitivities towards the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. Though no mu'min should have sensitivities towards something that is authentically said by a Nabiul A'zam sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. This is what Iman is. That your heart, not only your mind accepts, but your heart loves what he says. Huh? But when your mind interferes in saying, something is in my heart from these words that are attributed to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then there's a problem.
I've no idea. Sorry, I don't know.
There's a problem in the Iman, actually. There's problem in the submission to the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. ما كان لمؤمن ولا مؤمنة إذا قضى الله ورسوله أمرا أن يكون لهم الخيرة من أمره. The ayah is very clear. It is not up to the believer, male or female, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or His Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam command something, to say, let me think about this. So some people say, if you say only the book and the Sunnah, the book and Ahl Bayt, what is the Sunnah? The Kitab of Allah mandates the Sunnah. In other words, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, belief in the book of Allah means you must believe in the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Denying the Sunnah means denying the book for a very simple reason. Allah said in the Quran that we're supposed to hold on to, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَمَا أَتَاكُمُ الرَّسُولُ فَخُذُوهُ وَمَا نَهَاكُمْ عَنْهُ فَانْتَهُوا. What Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam orders you to do, you do. What he prohibits you from doing, you are prohibited. قل إن كنتم تحبون الله فاتبعوني. If you love Allah, follow me. قل أطيعوا الله وأطيعوا الرسول. Al-Quran mandates so many times on the mandate of the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa alayhi. Therefore, denying the Sunnah is denying the Quran per se, or vice versa. Denying the Quran is denying the Sunnah. Because Al-Quran is wahi and the Sunnah is wahi. Right? By the Quran. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. ما ينطق عن الهوى إن هو إلا وحي. He does not say things out of himself. It is only wahi that is given to him. Allah tells us. في سورة النجم. So when a Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam tells us, I left you two things, if you hold on to them you will not be misguided. Kitab Allah. That Kitab Allah means the book of Allah and what the book of Allah mandates, which is the Sunnah of his Rasul sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Now we go to the second weight. What's the second weight? وَعِتْرَتِي أَهْلَ بَيْتِي. And the itra. Al-itratu al-tahira. This is, everyone agrees on the first. The book of Allah, everyone, there's no book of Allah, there's nothing. Lakin the itra is the one that was subjected to many attempts of, number one, delegitimization, to delegitimize it, or to dilute the meaning and make it afloat the meaning of the itra. So we don't know, what is it? How come he told me if you hold on to them you will never be misguided, these two? And who are they who I'm supposed to be holding on to? Well, there are many people who say, Imam so said, Shaykh so said, Allama so said, and we love everyone who said. But the best one who said is Rasulullah. So, with all the respect, I do not put any words of anyone, regardless who they are, over the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Nor do I vacate and twist the meanings of the ahadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam for someone else's words. For I believe that the kalam of Allah and the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam are beneficial in every time and every place. And their understanding is not restricted to a select people, for that would make them inapplicable to the whole world. But verses, the Quran and the Sunnah are وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ. Allah tells us we have made this Quran easy so people can what? Understand and comprehend. So instead of going to whatever who said, let's go to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to see what is this that he means by the itra. And we see the hadith of Salama radiallahu anha with an authentic isnad. يعني الحاكم authenticated, والطبراني is authentic in there, وعبد بن حمير, many other asanid. The hadith is authentic beyond any means. Narrated through Wathil ibn al-Asqa, narrated through Salama, narrated, Imam Muslim narrates a portion of it, etc., etc. She says, when the ayah was revealed, Salama is saying, when the ayah was revealed, إِنَّمَا يُرِيدُ اللَّهِ لِيُذْهِبَ عَنْكُمُ الرِّجْسَ أَهْلَ الْبَيْتِ وَيُطَهِّرَكُمْ تَطْهِيرًا. When the ayah was revealed, again this is an authentic isnad, when the ayah was revealed that Allah, meaning Allah wills to remove your abomination, O members of the household, of the prophetic household, and wills to purify you, she said, Salama and Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, look at that. The ayah revealed And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam immediately, what did he do? The tafsir of the revelation. Basically, his actions are tafsir of the revelation. He calls, he summons Ali wa Fatima wal Hassan wal Hussain. He summons all four of them. And he puts Al-Hassan and Hussain in front of him. And he puts Fatima wa Ali around him, and he wraps them all up with a kisa, or with a aba, or with cloth. He wraps himself and all four of them, the five. Then he takes his hand out of the wrap to heavens, saying, Allahumma inna ha'ula hum ahlu bayti. Oh Allah, those are my household. فَأَذْهِبْ عَنْهُمُ الرِّجْسِ. Oh Allah, remove any abomination from them. وَطَهِّرْهُمْ تَطْهِيرًا. And purify them indeed. So that's his definition. What we have from his definition is these words, and almost all the ahadith that are authentic all agree, though there may be variation. There's a variation. Salama radiallahu anha, in one authentic narration, she said after she saw this, she says, Ya Rasulullah, can I come with them? Wa ana ma'ahum. She is the honorable wife of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And all the wives of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam are ummahatul mu'mineen mutahharat wa azwajuhu ummahatuhum. He tells her in this authentic narration, Anti ala makaniki. You stay where you are, and you are deemed to good. Another narration, she says, I came after he made this dua, realizing the ayah and the implication of the ayah. She said, I came and I put my head under the cloth. She said, Ya Rasulullah, and I am with you. She says, Anti, he says, Anti ila khair, Anti ila khair. You're deemed to good, you're deemed to good. Another night she said, I put my head, I'm with you, Ya Rasulullah. Maybe she did that twice. We don't know exactly, but we have. He says, yes, you are deemed to good, you're deemed to good. After the dua was made. So we have the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam to indicate those five who are the essence. Obviously, from Ahl Sunnah point of view, we also like the hadith in Sahih Muslim, hadith Zayd bin Arqam, when he was asked, Zayd radiallahu anhu, the Sahabi, when he was asked about the meaning, he says, yes, the honorable wives are from Ahl al-Bayt. Alu Ja'far, the family of Ja'far, the family of Aqil, family of Abbas are from Ahl al-Bayt. Those are the words of Ja'far radiallahu anhu, Zayd radiallahu ta'ala anhu, which is basically the general meaning of Ahl al-Bayt. Like when Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam tells us who are Ahl al-Bayt, he told us, Allahumma inna ha'ula hum Ahl al-Bayt. Another narration, Allahumma inna ha'ula'i ahlu bayti wa hamati. Oh Allah, those are my Ahl al-Bayt, and those are the people who are closest to me. That twice. فَأَذْهِبْ عَنْهُمُ الرِّجْسَ وَطَهِّرْهُمْ تَطْهِيرًا. Another riwayah, Wathil ibn al-Asqa'. وهي رواية كلها, this is a Shami narration. Every single narrator of it is from Sham. So therefore they're all trustworthy. And he says the same thing. He says he said the same thing, and he says, Allahumma inna ha'ula'i hum ahlu bayti. Another narration, Wathila says, he used to serve Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He says, Ya Rasulullah, can I come with you? After this dua was made, he says, yes, you are also from us. So we know, what are we talking about? But why those five? Or four? Why did Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam say these things? Why those five like that? Why do they have this special status? Allah and His Rasul know best. All we know is that Allah and His Rasul, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam told us these things. And told us that those five, if we hold on to them after the Quran, we will never be misguided. it seems as those 5 are a natural extension of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or those 4. You see Sayyidina Ali, Amir al-Mu'mineen, karramallahu ta'ala wajhahu, and Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said about him, علي مني وأنا من علي ولا يؤدي عني إلا أنا وعلي.
Subhanallah.
Hadith al-Sahih, authentic. The sanad is authentic. Ali is from me, and I am from Ali. And no one gives on my behalf but me or Ali.
Subhanallah.
One hadith. We come to Fatima al-Zahra, so now Ali is from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We come to Fatima al-Zahra, and Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam also in an authentic isnad says, Fatima bad'atun minni. Fatima is a piece of me.
Allah.
So she's also from him. We go to Al-Hasan. We see an authentic isnad, and Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, Hasanun minni. Al-Hasan is from me. We go to Al-Hussain. We see another authentic isnad. Husaynun minni wa ana min Hussain. Hussain is from me, and I am from Hussain. Ahabba Allahu man ahabba Hussain. May Allah love those who love Al-Hussain. We see all those, and Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam says repeatedly on every single one of them, they are from me, I am from them, more or less. There are meanings there. Some other time we'll talk about that. But we're trying to see why. Well, why is because they are from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I don't want you, I need to always say that when I talk about this hadith because it's important. I don't want you to think they are from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam means they are from his bloodline. And that's why they're honored. Yes, we honor anything that touches the feet of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We honor anything that touches the shoes of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There's no problem with that. But that's not why a Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that's not what he's telling us here. He's not telling you that, look, Al-Hussein is from me, okay, he's my grandson. That's already a given. He's telling you, he is from me. And I am from him. His positions is me. And his opinions are me. And he represents me. His soul is me. And his jism, his body is me. And his teachings is me. And his education is me. And his principles are me. That's what he's trying to tell you. And I am from him, so you're not making any mistake so we don't make any mistake about it. He's telling you not only he's from me, I am from him. So we have these two, but see, Al-Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi would not let this world and depart from this world without leaving us also a ship of salvation. And that ship, obviously the nur of the Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam showing us the way, because in order for you to get to the ship, you can't board a ship when it's dark. You need light to board the ship, to see your path to the ship. Otherwise you may board the wrong ship. May look the same, may have the similar name, may have similar slogans, but the content is different. There has to be nur that leads you so you can see clearly which ship you board. That nur was the Muhammadan nur sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. قَدْ جَاءَكُم مِّنَ اللَّهِ نُورٌ وَكِتَابٌ مُبِينٌ. And that ship was Al-Hussain. All of them, all 5 are the ship. الحديث اللي رواه ابن أبي شيبة in the Musannaf, ورواه الحاكم in his Mustadrak and authenticated it, ورواه البزار in his Musnad. Let's just go through some. I know this hadith has many narrations, multiple narrations. In fact, 8 different Sahabas narrated this hadith. Ali ibn Abi Talib narrated it, Anas bin Malik, Ibn Abbas, Abdullah ibn Zubair narrated it, Abu Tufail Amr bin Wathila narrated it. Who else? Abu Sa'id al-Khudri narrated it. 8 different Sahaba narrated this hadith. Or the riwayah of al-Hakim that he authenticates. He says, this riwayah through Ibn Abbas, he says that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, يعني al-Mufaddal bin Salih narrated it through Abi Ishaq al-Sabi'i through Ibn Abbas. Ibn Abbas says, An-Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, مثل أهل بيتي, the example of أهل البيت, يعني, remember أهل البيت, huh? The reason I say that is because those 5 are the ones in whom the text was revealed. Their offspring, the offspring of the 5, are also considered Ahl al-Bayt by blood, and the sadaqah is prohibited from being given to them. But they have to be in line with the 5, because they are the standard, not them. Their offspring, like I said, we honor a shoe that touched the shoe of Rasulullah. No comparison, huh? So, anyone who has any relation to Rasulullah, we love them and honor them for the sake of Rasulullah, regardless. They're not the standard that we have to hold on to. No. Because we take our deen from the texts. And the text said, Oh Allah, those are the ones who are my household. Oh Allah, purify them. So we're following the mutahhareen. Specifically, textually speaking, are those 5. Therefore, the offspring of the 5 are Ahlul Bayt by extension of the 5, and they must adhere to the 5, because they themselves, just like the rest of the ummah, have to do tamassuk with the 2, with the Quran and with those 5. Because nowadays there are many people in every which directions. There are many ships, and many ships have many different names on them. Some people curse the Sahaba, like Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu wa Umar, under the name of offspring of the 5 or Ahlul Bayt. And some people glorify their Yazidi apologetics, or Yazidis entirely, not apologetics even. They glorify the killers and the massacres and the cursers of Ali, wal Hassan, wal Hussain, wa Zayn al-Abidin, wa Zayd, wa Nafs al-Zakiyya, etc., etc., under also the name of Ahlul Bayt or the name of the Sunnah. No, we were ordered to hold on to the 2, the Book of Allah and the 5. The Ummah entirely, including the offspring of the 5, must hold on to the 5, and before that, to the Book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we don't confuse things, because we have a tendency lately, especially in the Khalaf time, to expound and expand on the very recent ones from Ahlul Bayt. You know, Sayyid, Shaykh, so and so, Sayyidul Sadat, to the Master, and we leave these ones, the 5, unknown to people. We tell people, follow these ones that come now, every few days. You know, someone studies from, great, and we love them. Like I said, this has nothing to do with love and respect. But the standard are those 5, not the later one. The later ones must follow the 5. They must stick with the 5. And if they deviated from the 5, then it's another story. So we know who should we look into, whose seerah whose biography we should really read. Not someone that just came this now, or 100 years ago, or 200, or 500, or even 1,000. We love them all and respect them. But we were ordered to hold on to the 5. Otherwise, there are many ships under many similar names. But we know those 5 Allah purified. We know those 5, and Nabi himself sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, Oh Allah, those are my household. And no one else can say anything about anyone else. The words of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam came to say anything. They are my household, repeatedly, many times. to emphasize the meaning. It's nice to follow the texts of the infallible sallallahu alayhi wa alihi. For the texts of the infallible, yani the sunnah, is safe and saving. We're talking about the ship of salvation. When you board a ship, make sure it's a strong ship. It withstands the storms. Don't be fooled by the looks of the ships. The Titanic sunk. The unsinkable, right? Didn't they say the unsinkable ship? Because it's not what people say, it's what the reality is. It's not the aura and the titles, 15 titles before the name and 17 titles after the name and all these things that we make. It's the content. It's the reality. Not the picture frame, but it's the truth. Therefore, we need to look into those five. We need to look into the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and learn. We need to look into the life of Ali Amir al-Mu'min and see the life of Fatima al-Zahra, the life of Imam al-Hassan wal-Hussain. We need to look into them. We need to stop the efforts to marginalize them. And we need to remember that intimidation only affects the weak and the shaken. Intimidation never affected those who believe strongly in Allah and His Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They took Ammar bin Yasir's mother, Sumayya radiyallahu ta'ala anha. They brought them from Africa, they enslaved them. Ammar bin Yasir. Dark person, dark-skinned, I mean. They take his mother and they tell her, if you don't disbelieve in Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, will kill you. It doesn't kill you, kill me. Only you're killing a body, you never kill the soul. They put her honorable legs, everyone with one horse, and they order the horses to run in different directions. That's the family of Yasir. Therefore, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. But this is the understanding these people have. That's why Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says, Sabran ala Yasir. Be patient for family of Yasir. For Jannah is waiting for you. See, not you're waiting to enter Jannah. No, that's a different story. No, Jannah is waiting for you. Maw'idakum al-Jannah. When Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam says about Ammar, Hadith Rawat Tirmidhi, that Jannah yearns to three people. Jannah wants three people. Ali wa Ammar wa Salman. They wait for them. Jannah is waiting for Ammar to come. Anyway. الحديث اللي رواه الحاكم رحمه الله, and he authenticated it. الحاكم authenticated it. And he said that Ibn Abbas said, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, مَثَلُ أَهْلِ بَيْتِ فِيكُمْ, the example of my Ahl Bayt. And again, I like to point again the like to emphasize that who Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam defined as Ahl Bayt. Keep the five in your mind, and everyone else is by extension and following adherence to them. The example of my Ahl Bayt amongst you is the example of the ship of Nuh. Whoever boards it will be saved, and whoever leaves boarding it will perish and be destroyed. وَمَنْ تَخَلَّفَ عَنْهَا غَرِقْ. Whoever stays away from boarding that ship will be drowning. The name of the hadith. The hadith has المفضل بن صالح يعني some ulama of jarh and ta'dil, of discarding and authentication the signs of hadith, they said he's problematic because anyway, يعني some people said no, he's accepted. He was the student of Ja'far al-Sadiq, so But anyway, That's what he said. لكن الإمام الحاكم authenticated his hadith. They said he's ضعيف. Some people said not really, but mostly they said he's ضعيف. That man, who Abu Ishaq Sabi'i Mudallis, though he's among the narrators of الصحيحين يعني Bukhari, etc. لكن there is another riwayah. Keep that in mind. يعني. Keep that in mind. يعني oftentimes the people who were around Ahl al-Bayt where I'm not saying the case here, so I'm making just a general statement. Usually, you see people who talk about Ahl al-Bayt will be subject to the Yazidi onslaught. That's not something new. That has always been there. Yani open up the books of Jarh and Ta'dil and you see anyone who praised Ahl al-Bayt in any certain time, especially in the early days, up until today, you are waking up the sleeping dinosaur, the sleeping monster of Yazid and the Yazidi alliances, because everything will come. I'm not saying again about this person in particular, nor am I accusing anyone of the ulama of Jarh and Ta'dil of being biased. I'm saying we are bashar at the end of the day. Ibn Abi Shayba narrates the hadith also by Ali ibn Abi Talib. Ibn Abi Shayba narrates the hadith through Muawiyah bin Hisham, وهذا من رجال Muslim. Muawiyah bin Hisham among the narrators of Muslim. You know, the least thing you can, ثقة, at least many of them said ثقة, الأجري والثقة وكذا, all these people. And he narrates it through Ibn Abi Maryam, عن ابن لهيعة, عن أبي الأسود, and he narrates that يعني all the way to Ali ibn Abi Talib, الحارث بن عبد الله, وعبد الله بن الحارث. Abdullah bin Harith is also ثقة through Ali ibn Abi Talib. Ali ibn Abi Talib said مثلنا أهل البيت. That's in Musannaf ibn Abi Shayba. The example of us أهل البيت كسفينة نوح. Like amongst you is like the what? There's no amongst you in the hadith, but the example in this verbatim, yani, the example of us Ahl al-Bayt is like the ship of Nuh. Well, this hadith, all the narrators are trustworthy thiqat, and it's continued with isnad. Ibn Lahi'a is an Egyptian Imam, Hafiz, kada. Like they say his books were burnt, and after he lost his books, he got confused. So therefore, we always have to scrutinize this hadith. It's a big issue. Some other time we'll talk about it. Lakin many of the Huffaz went into tahseen of his hadith. And even recent ones like Ahmad Shakir, rahimahullah, entirely accepting the narrations of Ibn Lahi'a. Well, I see Ibn Lahi'a, no exception in this hadith, no irregularities. In fact, he is with the rest of them. And the least you can say about them, that corresponds with the rest. Anyway. Another riwayah also, riwayat ibn Tufayl, Abu Tufayl عفوا, Amir bin Wathila radiyallahu anhu, sahabi, and he narrates this, الدواليبي في الأسماء والكنى, he narrates this the riwayah through Abu Sa'id, and Abu Sa'id narrates it through another one from his clan. Both of them are authentic. Abdul Karim. Abdul Karim narrates it through Aslam al-Makki. Aslam al-Makki narrates it through Abu Tufayl. Abu Tufayl is Sahabi. Aslam al-Makki is a trustworthy narrator according to the ulama of Jarh. And Abu Sa'id is trustworthy. The only one they said Abdul Karim. Abdul Karim was Taqwa bin Hibban, and there is Al-Azdi said he's da'if. Lakin we have no one saying he's bad. 4 people. 3 of them authentic, and one of the ulama of Jarh and Ta'dil authenticated him, and the other said, no one said there is a problem with him. And he said, Abu Tufayl said, our Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, the example, the meaning, the hadith, the example of my family amongst you of Ahl al-Bayt. So I don't say family. And nowadays, even though, yes, the family in the different meaning. We talked about that, so we don't want to go there. The example of Ahl al-Bayt amongst you is the example of the Safina, the ship of Nuh. Whoever boards it, naja, and whoever abandons it, gharq, halak, got destroyed. Obviously, I don't want to go through all the narrations, and then because we will stay here for a long time, talking about every single one and what it is. Like in all those narrations, you don't find anyone that is accused of lying, or you find anyone that is proven forger or so. We know the hadith, when it is narrated through many different ways, even if they entail some weakness, some of them, like you have Sakhawi declared the hadith Hasan, Ibn Hajar declared the hadith يتقوى بعضه, it strengthens itself. Ibn Adi says mustaqim. All these Huffaz, when they talk about this, and when a rule in the hadith, when the hadith is narrated through too many, it may reach tawatur, even if some of the chains are weak. But anyway, the example of my family, of a household amongst you, is the example of the ship of Nuh. Nobody disagrees among the Ummah about the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And no sect will tell you, regardless who they are, will tell you we don't accept what Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said. Like Ahlul Bayt became the test. And the second weight became the test. But here he's telling us it's the ship we ought to board. It's the ship that we have to run to. Because in the oceans there are many waves. And there are many ships. Not every ship lands you safely. You may board ships, but those ships will not get you to the final destination you desire, or you thought they were going to take you. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wanted to make sure that we're not boarding the wrong ships under similar meanings or names or calls. He wanted us to board the ship of Ahlul Bayt. There's one thing about loving someone. We all love Ahlul Bayt. Even the Khawarij said we love Ahlul Bayt. Khawarij and Nawasib, the Nasibis, they also say we love Ahlul Bayt. Absolutely not. Saying you hate Ahlul Bayt, you become munafiq immediately. So obviously, nobody wants to say we don't like Ahlul Bayt. Everybody says we love Ahlul Bayt. Like in loving is different than boarding their ship. You can like a ship from far, but you don't want to talk about the ship. Because you're fearful if you do, they might call you Shia. Or if you do, they might label you. Or you might lose your job. Or you might lose your respect amongst some jahils. Or you might not seem open-minded. While I feel that open-mindedness and righteousness, or that talking about Ahlul Bayt is a hadith of fitna. It brings fitna and division amongst people. And I always say such a statement may lead to kufr. Simply because the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam never lead to fitna and division. His words always are the source of unity and peace and comfort and guidance. Loving something, emotionally being attached to it, that's one thing. But boarding the ship and holding on to the rails of the ship, that's totally different story. Because you're going to face waves, big waves that want to sink that ship. And you have to fill your role in that ship. In that ship of salvation of Hussain, you not simply are an observer, you're looking through the binoculars. No. You're filling your roles as a positive contributor. You're doing something. You're not living life on the sides of life with no meaning to your life. Whatever people do, I'll do. Whatever it is, I am. No. That's not the ship. If you think you're on that ship, then you might need to change ships. Because the ship of Imam Hussain is وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ. One of the flags you find on that ship says Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ. the human shall lose إلا except الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات. Except those who believe and they actually transform their belief into what? Actions. There's amal salih. There's good deeds all the time, not bad deeds all the time. There's good words, kalima tayyiba all the time, not kalima khabitha all the time. There's positive contribution all the time, not negative contribution. There's amanu wa amilu salihat. Not only that, وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. There's the network of the people of haqq, and they network together like the bees with the people of patience. Why does Allah say tawasaw bil haqq? Okay, fine. So you have to stick to the haqq. We all understand that, stick to the haqq. But why does He say tawasaw bil sabr? After He says you have to stick to the haqq, He says you have to stick to patience. Why? Because if you stick to haqq, you're going to be tortured. If you stick to haqq, you're going to be labeled. If you stick to haqq, you're going to be slandered. If you stick to the haqq, people will call you names. People will try to suffocate you from the air you're breathing. If you stand up for the freedom and for the equality and for the justice, the merchants of venom and the merchants of slavery do not want you to stand. And therefore Allah says, when you do tawasi, when you hold on to the haqq, make sure you have sabr.
Subhanallah.
Because if you have no sabr, you lose. You can't withstand the pressure. When you love Imam Hussain and loving the ship of salvation that Imam Hussain was the captain of, along with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, obviously ahead of him, wa Fatima, wa Ali, wal Hassan. When you are in that ship of salvation, as the example Nabi gave us sallallahu alaihi wa alihi, it's beyond simply love al-Hussein. It is internalizing the concept of Imam al-Hussein. I always say, and I need not to remind you, but let me just remind myself, that principles are not found hanging up in the air. You don't find principles hanging, here's some little decency, there's some honesty, there's some integrity, there's some pride, dignity. You find these principles embodied in people like Al-Hussein.
Subhanallah.
So when we love Al-Hussein, it's not about loving what Al-Hussein is, but internalizing the concepts of Imam Al-Hussein. Taking them in and see what they mean. Because see, the love of the believers is different like the love of those who fake love. There are people who say, lots of people say, I love you. Biggest fake word or lie in history. Right? Easy to, oh, I love you. Oh, really? Everybody says, I love you. Male to me, but before the marriage, they say, after the marriage, I don't know. But I mean, usually. They should, after the marriage and before the marriage. Like, and people say, I love this. This world became mubtadala, this word became so cheap. It lost its value. Because love is not a word you say. Love is a hal, is a state that collects your mind, body, and soul all together and make you in conformity with that you love. That's why Sahaba al-Kiram radiallahu anhum, when we say they were in love of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when we say with Sayyidina Abu Bakr radiallahu ta'ala anhu, for example, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu was in love with Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. It's the hal. Not only his saying, Rasulullah, I love you. Well, anybody can say that. And his actions spoke louder than his words. Right? You heard that sometimes? Yeah, they tell you, especially, your wives, if you have wives, you tell her, honey, I love you. She says, well, your actions speak louder than your words. So when are you going to give me some time? When are you going to do this for me? Everybody says, then your actions speak louder than words. So it's not simply loving but then marginalizing, loving and suppressing, loving and glorifying his enemies, loving and apologizing, finding excuses for everyone who wants to blow the knees of the case of Imam Hussain and the mission of Imam Hussain. وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا أَشَدُّ حُبًّا لِلَّهِ. Allah says those who believe have more love towards Allah. See, but that love is part of their aqidah. It's not simply a word. And what does that mean? It's not a word. It's not an emotion. The love for Ahlul Bayt, the love for Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, is not an emotional state. That's not really what it is. Emotional state does not generate productivity. Emotional state is not always conducive to action. But the love of Ahlul Bayt, as we know it and as it's mandated by the texts, is actually rooted in the texts. It's a belief, it's a aqidah, it's an iman issue that is founded on texts and scriptures and mandates that is accompanied by an emotional state. But it's not an emotional state. Don't ever let people tell you that the case and the mission and the sacrifice of Hussain is emotions. No. It's texts. It's Quran. It's Sunnah. It's embodying the Quran. And it's embodying the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. When Sayyida Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha wa ardaha was asked about Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, she was asked, hadith is authentic, she was asked, Ya Rasulullah, or she was asked, O al-Mu'mineen, how was the akhlaq of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? How was, since you are his wife, you know how he was inside the house. How can you describe to us Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? See, Aisha radiallahu anha did not have to go and tell them this and that. She summoned it very beautifully, very nicely in a couple of words. She said, كَانَ خُلُقُهُ الْقُرْآنِ. 3 words. Which means, An-Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was a walking Qur'an. You read the Qur'an? That was Rasulullah. And Al-Hussain is from Rasulullah. Ana min Hussain. Hussain is from me. I am from him. And I am from him means that Al-Hussain was also a walking Quran. The ship of salvation of Nuh. Let's go back to Nuh alayhi salam. Nuh alayhi salam's ship saved his people. The Anbiya were aboard the ship in the metaphorical sense. What does that mean? They're all in line of that line. They're all of the same line of that salvation. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وَإِنَّ مِن شِيعَتِهِ لَإِبْرَاهِيم, Allah says. Which means among the Shia of Nuh, yani among the followers and supporters of Nuh, is Ibrahim. I invite myself and you to board the ship of salvation. To study about the ship of salvation. To know the ship of salvation. To love the ship of salvation and to live within the ship of salvation. Because that ship of Nuh alayhi salam, and I'm talking about Ahlul Bayt to us, like in the ship of Nuh alayhi salam saved people from floods, right? Earth was flooding. Heavens was pouring and earth was flooding. We live today in a flood. We live in all kinds of floods today. We live in an intellectual flood where so many ideas about the religion flooding our people. flooding the youth. This is the salvation. That's the salvation. This Shaykh, and that Shaykh, and this Peer, and that Peer, and this Jama'ah, and that Jama'ah, and this idea, that idea. Floods and floods. He's the standard. Whatever he says is no. And the other one says, no, no, no. He's the standard. Whatever he says is fine. And everyone, they make their own ships of salvation. We live in a time of intellectual flooding. Floods coming from everywhere, claiming to be this and that. اللهم صل على رسول الله. In such kind of intellectual flooding of ideologies and ways and things and what is right, and people say, I'm lame and I don't know how to go and check. It's your responsibility. This is your deen. Cross-reference and check. ماذا كنتم تعملون? Quran says. What were you doing in the dunya? What were you doing? You allocated time for everything else except the deen that you say the most important thing in your life? What were you doing? ماذا كنتم تعملون? There's a need for allocation of that time. And I tell you, all these ships, hold on to the ship of salvation of Ahlul Bayt. There are many ships there to save yourself from the intellectual flooding that is derived, that is driving at everyone, facing everyone, want to overwhelm everyone through either the glow that it has, or the aura that's made and created around it, or the visual deception that it may have, or the sweet talk, or walking the walk. I recommend myself and you to hold on to the ship of salvation. Forget all the other ships and board the ship of Ali Muhammad. Board the ship of the five. مثل أهل بيتي فيكم. The example of my household, my Ahl Bayt amongst you, is like the ship of Nuh. Whoever boards it will be saved, and whoever leaves it or is left from it shall perish. And that perishing will be hit by rocks. If your ship that you boarded gets destroyed, you're going to be hit by so many rocks in that before you drown. There are other kinds of floods, not only intellectual flood, that's hitting everyone. The book and the sunnah and the itra. Those three are the salvations. Those are what we have to be holding on to. Hold on to them. When you board the ship of Hussain, you're holding on to the itra, to the book before the itra, to the sunnah before the itra, and then to the second weight, the itra of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There is the other flood, the psychological flood that we live in. So we live in an intellectual or religious ideologies flooding everywhere. Intellectual terrorism under the very banner of religious practices. What does that mean? If you disagree with me in one thing, I'm going to terrorize you intellectually. I call that intellectual terrorism. It's much worse than actual terrorism. Because physical terrorism only starts with intellectual terrorism. When you start stripping the rights of people that you disagree with, when you start violating their rights and the dignities Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them and granted them. the psychological flooding that we need the ship of salvation for. We go home, we believe in Allah in the Day of Judgment. We believe in Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. No one has a doubt over that. Lakin we see ourselves do not want to comply. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, you hear his words telling you, one of you, لا يؤمن أحدكم, hadith sahih, authentic isnad, al-Bukhari, one of you will not be a believer, complete believer, until you love for your fellow person what you love for yourself. We hear it, we know it, probably most of us memorized it, but the self doesn't want to practice it. Flooding of idea. What do you mean I have to love for him? You know, I don't like him. But that's not the point. You have to love for others what you love for yourself, because your yaqeen and your iman is on Allah. He will give you and He will give everyone. You want His mercy, be merciful unto His slaves. Compliance. Because yourself, shaitan is coming telling you, no, don't do that. You disagree with someone, or someone disagrees with you, or something happens like that, then you willing to do anything, halal or haram, just to get your revenge. There's a psychological flood that takes you away from the ship of salvation. That wave that comes and gets you and drowns you in the darkness of it. Be careful. This deen is about not only mercy and justice, equality, appreciation, love first and foremost. This deen is about mahabba. Mahabba of Allah, mahabba of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, mahabba of the Sahaba, mahabba of Ahlul Bayt, mahabba of the awliya, mahabba of each other. Mahabba with mercy to the plants, to the animals, to the environments, to earth rights upon us. Al-Mu'min is a positive, the Muslim is a positive contributor. How come there is these psychological floods then that takes people away from the ship of salvation? People's hearts are attached to many things. They love, figures, they love people, they love things, they love furniture, they love cars, they love singers, they love all these things. But the ship of salvation wants you to attach your heart to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hold on to the two things, the book, the sunnah, and the itra. There is a social flood, another kind of flood, and you see the ship of Nuh or the ship of Hussain, in the sense that we want to sail on and board, also saves you from the social floods. Because society imposes its own floods of things. Oh, don't do that. It's not the right time to say things yet. When is the right time to say the sunnah? Every time is the right time to say the sunnah of Rasulullah. Oh, if you say this, we'll call you this. Social floods. The flood also socially comes. Abandon the floods by riding on the ship. If you have boarded the ship of salvation, those floods will be way beneath you. You'll look at them like they won't affect you. Imam Hussain, in his leading the ship, showed us that tyranny will never overcome justice. That haqq will always prevail. That the voice of haqq, though Yazid and his people, and the Yazidis until today, who are bothered and irritated by the voice of Imam Hussain, because it's the voice of haqq. They don't like the voice of haqq to be loud, because it irritates their sleep. It irritates their forgery that they've made. Their delusional world that is based on benefiting them, on their selfish concept versus the selfless concept. And I talked about that yesterday, about selfless versus selfish. Even bacteria are not entirely selfish. They live off of you, but they give you something. Some bacteria always gives you, right? You have the bacteria in your intestines, in your stomach, and the GI system. It gives you vitamin K. You need that. So parasites also, there's a give and take. They leech off of you to survive, but they give you something in return, whatever it is. Therefore, we have to inject babies with vitamin K the minute they're born, because they don't have vitamin K, because their intestines or their GI system is sterile. And we need vitamin K for coagulation of blood. Otherwise, blood won't be coagulated. That's why we give vitamin K injection immediately. Thanks to bacteria in our stomach, it gives us that. There are some people who, I would say parasites are even a higher example to them. Take, but not give. That's not the example of Muslims. There are some pure examples of giving, and there are pure examples of taking. And some people who always insist on taking and corrupting everything to serve them, driving everything to serve their ego, to fuel their pocket with money, and to bolster their own standing, even if the victim is the same deen that they claim to be propagating. That was Yazid. And the Yazidi, figurative. Yazid was not only Yazid bin Muawiyah who lived 1380 some years ago or so. No. There's always Yazids happening. People could be Shaytanis or Yazidis in their own homes by being tyrants, by being zalims, oppressors, by being evil, by succumbing to their lower self and vile desires. And Imam Hussain showed us an example that this deen is not about slogans that we just shout. And this deen is not about looks. In Allah la yanzuru, hadith Muslim. Allah does not, Sahih Imam Muslim, Allah does not look at the way you look. وَلَكَ يَنظُرُ إِلَىٰ, but He looks at your hearts and He looks at your deeds. He does not look at the way you look. You look tall, short, white, black, yellow, this, that. All these forms, suwar, all these surah are worth nothing in a sense. But what's the heart? The human being is not a human being because of the body. Allah created bodies so that bodies can be buried eventually. Like you're a human being by the principles you carry within that body. That was an Imam Hussain. I don't want to talk about what happened in details because you already know it, all of it. Like I invite myself and you, in these times of floods, overwhelming floods everywhere, and lots of callers to all kinds of ships, join the ship and join that ship. But we have already a command and a wasiyah from Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, that we join the ship or we board the ship of those five of Ahlul Bayt, initially those ones whom the ayah was revealed upon. The ship of Hussain makes you feel the love when you board it. The breeze on that ship is a breeze of comfort. It's not the breeze that moves you entirely, but it's the beautiful breeze that you feel it under your jaws that just take care of you. It's that comfort breeze. And boarding that ship is a cure from the other diseases that are manufactured by the other ships. Al-Quran is shifa, right? Fihi shifa'un linnas, Allah says. When you read the book of Allah, there is cure. See? When you hold on to the book and the sunnah and the itrah, there is cure. Shifa means cure, does not mean medication. Okay? Don't want you to think shifa means medication. No, because some medications don't work. And medications have sometimes negative side effects. So I know I'm talking medical a little bit today, but cure is different than medication. Shifa'un linnas. There's cure for you. Don't worry about medications. Medication may work or not work. Like when you board the ship, you have shifa. There's beauty. And therefore Al-Hussain was, I always say, and I'll finish with this. Al-Hussain was, is, will always be the light of guidance and the ship of salvation. وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Of the hadith, when you specialize the special five of the Ahl Bayt, and a lot of people, they start going against you, and they start questioning you that why do you only say the only five. And if you may well know better that there's another verse in the Quran Kareem, قُلْ لَا أَسْأَلُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ أَجْرٌ إِلَّا الْمَوَدَّةَ فِي الْقُرْبَى. And if you could also just make it clear, I've also heard that there's a Qazi Ayaz has also written on this, regarding that this was the Sahaba, they asked the Prophet ﷺ that who are the five, who are Ya Rasulullah man wajab alina al-muhabba. So if you could just clarify this as well, please.
It's a long topic, but let me just say this. I sort of said at the beginning, when Rasulullah ﷺ says something, I don't put any precedence over his statements. With all the respect to any and everybody. Okay? When I have a clear hadith that's authentic, that's the end of the line for me. That's the end of the day, and it's the end of discussion. You may choose to follow otherwise. I still love you and respect you, and I love all the scholars who have written about that and respect them. But when Al-Habib Al-A'zam, who knows the Quran better than anyone, tells me, when this ayah was revealed, he called on to the five, and he said specifically, Allahumma inna ha'ula, Allahumma ha'ula, oh Allah, those are. He could have called everyone and said those are, but we don't have such narration, right? So that's his. You got a problem? Don't take it. I have no, it's not me. Take it up with him. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He said these things, not me. Now other people's understanding, yes. We as Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, according to the hadith in Muslim, hadith Zayd, the statement of Zayd bin Arqam, radiallahu anhu, Zayd al-Sahabi. He said, Nisa'uhu min ahli baytihi. His wives are from his household. Lakin, he says, lakin, but, his lafz is lakin, yani istidrak. Ahlu baytihi, his household are those who were prevented from sadaqah after him. And he said, Alu Aqil wa Al Ja'far wa Al Abbas wa Alu Ali. So that's the general meaning, obviously. Okay, as per the authentic hadith. And the specific meaning, so we say that Ahlul Bayt in the general meaning is obviously the five, obviously the Azwaj al-Mutahharat, Alu Aqil, Al Ja'far, Al Abbas, or Al Ali. The general meaning. What Rasulullah said, Ha'ulai Ahlu Bayti, seems to be an emphasized meaning, and I leave it at that. And any attempts to vacate that meaning or avoid it is really abolishing the hadith, in my opinion. And I just simply follow the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And I don't see a problem in combination of the opinion of Zayd radiallahu anhu and the statement of Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa alayhi. For the opinion of Zayd, or what Sayyidina Zayd radiallahu anhu arda understood, was the wider meaning of Ahlul Bayt, and that was the special meaning of Ahlul Bayt. That's the understanding I participate based on the texts. So there are people who will bring opinions of this scholar said so and that scholar said so. And I love all the scholars and I respect them all, and they're all great people, and their shoes are crowns on our heads. But the words of Rasulullah are more beloved to me than their words. as far as the hadith about the mawadda, it has weakness in it. I just wanted to say that. Yani the hadith about mawadda has weakness in it to entail the 5. This is the strong than the authentic narration. The other one has some weakness in it, though the meaning would be correct in my opinion, and Allah knows best. No. Any other comments, criticism, doubts? Yes.
Briefly touched on, how do we recognize that we're boarding the right ship, as we put it? And that's why it was doing our own research. But what I find is a problem is that some hadiths they interpret it in so many different ways. How do we know what the way we are going is the right way?
Well, number one, first comes first. You have the Quran first. Then you have the authentic Sunnah. And we as Ahlul Sunnah, we put standards to distinguish between what is Sahih, authentic, versus what's Sahih and Hasan, I'll say, good and authentic, versus Da'if, and that's not authentic. So you gotta prioritize also. It would be not only unacademic, but untrue to yourself to put a precedence of something that's weak over something that's authentic. So you have those standards. Well, Quran and Sunnah are not, how do I say? They're not written in the language of symbols and letters that no one understands. Because that makes that notion to bolster the position of scholars by some jahils, really. Because scholars do not need that kind of foolish way that the Quran and Sunnah cannot be understood at all, except by a select group of people. That is a foolish notion. Because that makes the Quran and Sunnah inapplicable to people. Okay? I'm not saying that people are scholars in the book and Sunnah automatically just because they're being people. No. There's a knowledge. But at the same time, we say that there's a need for learning from the ulama and all these things. But what the standard is not what the alim says. The standard is the book of Allah and the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. That's the standard. So the alim is alim if he knows the Quran and the sunnah. But not the alim is alim if he doesn't know really the Quran and sunnah. He just says things right and left. That's not ilm. Al-ilm is the ilm in the book of Allah and the sunnah of his Rasul sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. And that we attach people's hearts not to the figures nowadays, and to me and to you and to no. We want people's hearts to be attached to those two things: the Kitab of Allah, the Sunnah of His Rasul, and the 5. We want the people of students of knowledge and everything channeling these things, not being the end station of these things, so that people go on to board, because it's not my ship or your ship, it's their ship that we're boarding. We're all boarding, trying to board that ship. So, the Quran, the Sunnah, and see what those 5 said or did about it. Do your research. Ask the ulama, obviously. فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Allah says, ask the people of knowledge if you don't know. What was the position of Ali ibn Abi Talib on this? What was the position of Imam Hussain, Imam Hassan, Fatima al-Zahra? I'm saying them without order. To me, they're all beloved the same anyway. But anyway, they're all one of one. Yeah, 5, they're really one. Really, they're not really 5. Yeah, they may be 5 in different entities, but it's all one. They're all like Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Not in nubuwwah, huh? So people, I know you're all scholars, inshallah, you will not misinterpret what I said, but I mean they are one in the same in everything except nubuwwah. The nubuwwah is reserved to an-Nabiyyul Khatam sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
As Ahlul Sunnah, how do we reconcile with the Battle of the Camel?
That's a big question. But as Ahlul Sunnah, we believe obviously obeying the righteous Khalifa as fard. And Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam warned us that even if, regardless whoever becomes your Khalifa, وَلَوْ أُمِّرَ عَلَيْكُمْ عَبْدٌ حَبَشِيٌّ رَأْسُهُ زَبِيبًا. That's just to give you a really, really extreme examples that is really hated by the people at that time. Even if a slave whose hair looks like a dried grape is in charge of you, yani in a sense he's a righteously chosen Khalifa, then you must obey. Not righteously chosen, not someone who orders with ma'siyah you obey. No, because there's no obedience in ma'siyah anyway. So we believe that Sayyidina Amir al-Mu'mineen was righteous in things that he did in his Khilafah entirely. And we believe that the great three Sahabas, may Allah be well pleased with them, Sayyidina Aisha radiallahu anha, Al-Mu'mineen, Sayyidina Talha wa Sayyidina Zubair radiallahu anhum. Number one, none of them actually pulled a sword and actually fought. They did appear at the scene, and two of them, Talha wa Zubair, went back after they were reminded by the hadith, and they did not fight, not even anything. With Sayyida Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, I believe she was betrayed and deceived by the Umayyad propaganda. And she repented, as it's known in the narrations. So all of them have repented, and therefore we don't believe the Sahaba al-Kiram radiallahu anhum wa ardahum to be infallible, ma'sumeen like the Anbiya. But we believe that if they make mistakes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive them because of what they have done, inshallah. So therefore, we believe that these three, who are the main ones, have actually shown, as it is documented well in our sources, in authentic narrations, and enough to give you the yaqeen that there was repentance from that, and may Allah be well pleased with them. That's how we stand. That's how I...
Muawiyah? And Hazrat Muawiyah, you can say.
We believe, remember that Muawiyah was not there. And Kamil has nothing to do with Muawiyah. Safin was Muawiyah. And we believe just because, again, let me restate one important thing. We do not abolish any hadith that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said. Whatever Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said authentically is the eye and it is the source of the sunnah. And then when he says, وَيْحَ عَمَّارِ فِي الْبُخَارِ تَقْتُلُهُ الْفِئَةُ الْبَاغِيَةُ يَدْعُوهُمْ إِلَى الْجَنَّةِ وَيَدْعُونَهُ إِلَى النَّارِ. Ammar will be killed by the fi'ah al-baghiyah. He calls them to Jannah, they call him to Jahannam. We believe that to be authentic and true. Obviously, it's an authentic hadith. Having said that, so we, at one say we do not simply shut down the words of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We believe in them, we internalize them, and we say this is the sunnah. At the same time, we hold our tongues from speaking about anyone who was in the companionship of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And as you all know, Muawiyah was among the people who had the honor of being in the companionship of the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. And the way of the Salaf of Ahlul Sunnah was to do sukoot on him. In other words, not to make judgment on what happened on his side, and just leave it as such. At the same time, obviously, believing in the righteousness of Sayyidina Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali, yani in what he did. Lakin, we hold our tongues from speaking on Muawiyah simply because of he was in the honor of the companionship of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So, yani, these people were Sahaba, and we do not want to enter. It doesn't help to enter in these things, and we can never. It's his Sahaba, and he sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, knows better, and he deals with them. We got nothing for his respect and honor. We don't say anything. That's my stand on this. Allah knows best. Like, I do not abolish any hadith. If the hadith is authentic, we say the hadith. That's the hadith. At the same time, we hold our tongue. Sukoot. Salaf, they called it sukoot. Sukoot means remain silent. Don't make a judgment. You don't know. And you don't know, maybe something happened, maybe because of it. Let's just leave it. No. Yes.
You described the Arabat as a ship, salvation ship. In today's modern world, where the world becomes a village, for people, they can see what is going on. Do you see any ship like that being sailing in the Islamic world or is about to sail, so that people can see a role model and they can see that in your travels, in your around the world, do you see that happening or is it likely to happen? So people can identify.
Obviously, I didn't describe it as the ship, and Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam himself described it as such. The ship is more metaphorical than it is physical. And the ship has always sailed and will always be sailing till the end of times, because I believe it is those that are on that ship are the ones who Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam means in the hadith that's sahih, مَا تَزَالُ طَائِفَةٌ مِّنْ أُمَّتِي. There will always be a group in my ummah on the haqq. They do not care about how many people disagree with them. They remain on the haqq until the day of judgment. So I believe that those people are the ship. Lakin, the beauty of the ship, it is not figure specific after those five, rather than it is ideology specific. So therefore, if we are in line, if we are prioritizing the Thiqal al-Akbar, the book, the Sunnah, and the Itra, we hope that Allah makes us among those who board that ship. So we look into our hearts, so we don't look for figures that lead us to the ship nowadays, because those five figures that we knew for sure were the people of the ship, we don't have them as much, we don't have them today. We have people who claim to follow them, so that claim must be verified. Three things. Or two things. The book and the Sunnah, the Itra. If we find the book and the Sunnah, we see the Itra is not there, or the Itra is only in the Qasaid and the Nasheeds, then we're singing still. And we need to get away from singing. There are more important things to do than simply just chanting and, singing. And if we see the Itra only, and the Quran comes next, the Sunnah, don't worry about the Sunnah, just Al-Hussain, 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 Al-Hussain only, then there's the first weight missing there, which entails the book and the Sunnah. So when you see these two, the book, the Sunnah, and the Itra, that's where it is. And best is, we go straight to the book and the Sunnah and the Itra through those who can teach us and connect us to the book and the Sunnah and the Itra. And those are the people of knowledge. And we look through and we try to put the puzzle together. It's there, because if they're not there, there would be no guidance. Guidance would cease to exist. But it's there, and we have to exert our efforts to see it, inshallah, and to actually be part of it. Not only see it, we need to be part. There's no food, spoon feeding. As-Sahaba radiallahu anhu, Sayyidina Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhu, for example. He didn't say, okay, I'm with Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, I don't have to do anything. I know I'm saved, I'm from the Ashara Mubashireen, all these things. You can go through the Fadail of Sayyidina Siddiq radiallahu anhu, and, no. When he was asked for help, he went and gave every single cent he has, all his money. There's interaction.